Hey, and welcome back to the number one podcast in the sport where I have no idea what to say. And these situations are tricky because if you know my story with Sonny Edwards, you'll know that it's complicated. Yeah, it's really complicated. Like, I've known Sonny since he was an amateur. I watched him and his brother at Repton. I've seen his career grow, right? I remember speaking to his parents and we're talking about Charlie, and they're like, nah. Sonny might be the better kid because he's super competitive and he wants to be better than his brother. Yeah, okay, cool. And so you watch him rise up, and we'd message each other, mate, good luck. He was ABA champ. Could you have sent him to the Olympics in 2016? Yeah. I think that would have been the fair option. But they didn't. And we were still cool for a long time. Right? No issues. We'd message. I mean, this is all, in the public domain. And as a person, never really had a problem with Sonny. Right? Because Sonny's thing had always been speak the truth in boxing. Even when he was young. And he had forthright opinions then. And so when it went wrong was me and Porky did an episode once. Didn't mean to smash the microphone then, but me and Porky did an episode once. And in that episode, I said two things. I said, one, when Sonny Edwards is so much better than these guys like Marcel Braithwaite, he has to try and stop them. Because at some point, he's going to have to know how to do these things when he gets to a higher level. You're not going to be able to dance around people at world level. It just doesn't happen. So if he's not learning how to dog it out and deal with people and hurt them and stop them now, when's he going to do it? That's one of the things I said. The second thing I said is, if you look at what Queensberry will do with Sonny Edwards, they will build him up. And I said he'll beat some British guys, and they'll find someone from Africa that he can beat to win a European or world title. And then he'll get fed to the Mexicans or the Latin Americans, because there is no viable market for little guys in Europe, because genetically Europe doesn't really have little guys. So they're the two things I said. And both were proven to be correct. They didn't come from a place of malice. They just came from a person who's observed boxing for a long time, and they were just an opinion. And it triggered off a feud involving idiots like Danny Connor. Now that his meal ticker's gone, what's he going to do? Scrimping around, running around from Rich Harrison, right? These are your tough guys. These are your brave warriors. Just remember that. Remember when Danny Connor ran away from Rich Harrison? Didn't stand and fight, didn't throw one shot. As soon as that hat went off his head, he ran. Okay? These are the people they want you to call warriors. So not everyone that laces a pair of gloves is a warrior, because you're a warrior in life, right? You can't just be a warrior in the ring when it's controlled. But anyway, back to Sonny. Now, I've always stood on this. I always stood on it. Sonny's style was always going to be hard to beat in the amateurs, whoever you were, because it's hard work to beat him, right? And he played with people in the AMs. But the pros are different. You can hide a lot of things in 3-minute rounds. You can hide a lack of stamina. You can hide a lack of power. You can hide a lack of strength. You can hide a fragile chin, because there's not enough time and the gloves aren't small enough for these things to get interrogated and tested. And so he could have been anything in the AMs. I think he could have won medals in 2 Olympics and decided what he wanted to do after that. And he probably would have still had the same career. But the system was against him. I don't know why. Ask McCracken about that. But that's kind of the broad picture. So I've always respected Sonny as a boxer. Never really gelled with him I can't say never, but recently just having gelled with him as a person. These are things that are true. And I said it after the Bam Rodriguez fight. I said a lot of the stuff after then, so I don't need to repeat it. But in essence, I don't watch his fights any differently than I watch anyone else's fights. I actually thought he'd beat Yafai. I thought the Sonny Edwards we've seen in the past would have enough to beat Yafai. So that made what we saw on Saturday even more shocking because he got smashed from pillar to post. Like there wasn't 1 second of one round where he was, in control, in charge. None of that. There was none of that. And we'll talk about the wider things in a second, but let's just talk about the fight. Like the MVP. Well, there were many MVPs. Like obviously, Yafai is the MVP, but there are other guys who played an important role. And like, I'm going to shout out Yafai for any number of reasons, but Cal will know better than anyone else what Sonny Edwards was about to face. Because you remember, it was Yafai that had to take that shellacking from Chocolatito. And you kind of felt Hearn fed him to the Latin Americans at that point. And, Cal did the best he could, but there were levels to it. And so maybe he can relate a bit more. But in the hand wrapping session, I thought he was on absolute fire. So what's really interesting about that, and it's a bit of a hard listen, so apologies. It's a hard listen. I'm hoping in the mix down I can get some of that nonsense out. But here's the thing. You see, with that, it felt like Yafai had some information. And he knew he was going to drop it on. So this all feels coordinated. Like I said, send Cal in with that information because it's not, I think the middle brother's Gamal. So it's not Gamal who has the problem with Charlie. It's send Cal in. And, Cal's the older guy, the more reasonable one, the one that everyone can kind of, engage with. And he went in there just trying to get in Sonny's head. Nice and calm in the way he did it. But it sounded like he had good authority and good information about what was going on behind the scenes. But that's how it all started. Like, as a fan, you're watching this, and that's not the usual Sonny Edwards in there. Subdued, allowing this to happen, just deflecting stuff. He didn't look or sound like the Sonny Edwards. In fact, all fight week, he didn't look or sound like the Sonny Edwards we're used to, right? Like that time when he came out in the fur coat, looking like Danger Mouse in a fur coat. Like, that's the Sonny that we've been used to. And I'd always wondered, to what extent is that really Sonny? Because remember, when you've known someone coming up, there's a consistency you're looking for. And him in that leather coat looking like Biker Mice from Mars was not the one for me. Right? It just wasn't the one for me. But it's not... Maybe it's not about that. Because he hasn't seemed right since the Bam Rodriguez fight. And without wishing to relive history, the thing about the Bam Rodriguez fight was he outsmarted Sonny, and Sonny had never been outsmarted in the ring before. And Bam was just able to stay in front of him continuously and just block every exit route. And when all those exits were taken from Sonny couldn't really stand there and fight. And that kind of reflects his personality. When there's an exit, Sonny will find it. When there's no exit, not the same guy. And so I'm watching this card develop, and in my head I'm thinking, as a coach, what would you be telling your fight to do? And I was like, just set about Sonny. See if Bam really beat the heroism out of him. And that's what happened in the fight. Now, I wish I could be super tactical about the fight. I genuinely wish I could. But it wasn't that tactical a fight. So, you got a fight in which you got an Olympic gold medalist in Yafai. And you've got a kid who could have been an Olympic gold medalist in Sonny Edwards. Now, the difference between them is Galal had a record of stopping people. He was coming into this stopping people, beating people up. And when you're fighting someone who beats people up, the one thing you need, whether it's speed, whether it's accuracy, whether it's top-end power, you need something that means that when you hit them, you can stop them in their tracks, or you can have them thinking twice. Right? Sonny doesn't have that. So it was always going to be hard for him in that sense. But then you go, well, Sonny's got those legs. And we've seen him do it round after round. And then you go back and go, oh, he didn't do it round after round against Bam. Those legs got tired pretty quickly. And so as the fight's happening, look, round one, Yafai just jumped on him. Just jumped on him. And when there was no response to that from Sonny, you're like, oh my God, this isn't going the distance. Yeah. So I watched that first round and I went, Yafai's going to win this. And then I texted a friend of mine because I was on the phone at the same time. I texted a friend and I just said, Yafai's going to stop him. Actually, even on the phone, I was on the phone to, name drop here, I was on the phone to Umar Sadiq. We're talking about other things. And I said to him, I just said, yeah, Yafai's beating the life out of him. And then you see the exchange at the end of the second round where he's like, to be real with you, I don't want to be in this ring. I don't want to be here right now. And people have drawn a lot of importance on that. But would he have said that if he was playing with Yafai? I don't think he would have done. It was how easy, and Sonny knows boxing, and he was like, I'm getting beaten up in here. Because you'd watch him, and he'd be slipping shots, he'd be riding shots, and then there'd be that one shot Yafai would throw that would just snap Sonny's head back, and you're like, oh, that's horrible. And no matter what I thought about the guy, I was like, I don't want to see him take too much more of this. And I remember at the end of round 5, I said, someone needs to stop this fight. It was a one-way beating. It was a one-way hiding that Sonny could do nothing to change. He just sort of slunk from one corner of the ring to the other, from one set of ropes to the other, just hoping. And there were times where he'd try and make a stand and go, let me just hold my ground and let some hands go. And Yafai just said, nah, I'm going to steamroller you. Like, Yafai boxed like a guy who would not be denied. And Sonny Edwards boxed like a guy who definitely had seen better days. Or he boxed like a guy who had been found out at world level. And maybe in his heart of hearts, he knew, I'm not at this level. I couldn't jump in with these guys like Quadras at their peak. I couldn't jump in with these guys like Estrada at their peak, Chocolatito, Strisaket. I couldn't jump in with those guys at their peak. You know, I'm lucky I avoided guys like Inoue. And remember, he knows this stuff. And this is what we're all going through in his head as the fight's progressing, going, how is Yafai this much better than me? What's happened? And at that point, he's probably just looking for the ref to show him mercy. And big credit to Lee Every. I love the fact when I mention someone in one podcast and then they get mentioned in another for a completely different reason. But big shout out to Lee Every because he looked long and hard at Sonny. And people forget, like, Lee's been in boxing a long time. So he knows. He's been a ref, he's been a coach, he's been a boxer. He knows. And because I was watching, I was like, has he got his hands on his knees? And he was really looking to see if there was any fight left in Sonny. I don't think he stopped it because it was dangerous at that point. I think he stopped it because Sonny was giving him that look which says, mate, just stop it. Yeah, I'm not going to get any better than this. Just stop the fight. And Lee Every did the right thing. So credit to Lee for that. It's tough. And I say it's tough because remember, Sonny Edwards is a family man. He's a dad. He's got kids to provide for. So you'd like to see him be able to make money in the thing that he loves. But boxing doesn't love you. Boxing doesn't owe you. Whoever you are. Doesn't owe me. Doesn't owe anyone. When your time's done, your time's done. And as soon as you're done, we start talking about who's next. And so after the fight, obviously, you know, Gal's buzzing. I like it. Just so humble, isn't he? You know, family around him. Showed love to McCracken. Has shown loyalty to McCracken that others maybe haven't. And, you know, our second MVP of the night touches on that. We'll talk about him later. And then Sonny goes, look, whether I'd won or lost tonight, I would have retired. You're retiring from boxing at 28. You're retiring from boxing at what? He's had like 20, 22, 23 fights. Something like that. 24, I don't know. That's no time at all. So why are you retiring? That's the real question. Why are you retiring? Is it You don't love the game, body battered. And this happens, by the way. Like, some people aren't built for boxing. And I'm going to come back to this point. If you ever see those kind of like Latin American guys, right? When they're like 5'3", 5'2", whatever, they're very, very solid men. Like solid bones, and like you look at their fingers, they're like sausages. They're very solid men. And they seem to have this weird gift of being able to suck down to an ungodly weight, like flyweight or whatever it is. I haven't weighed that since I was like 10. But they can do that. And it seems like genetically, they're optimized for being smaller. Whereas here, if you're boxing at flyweight, you're at the wrong side of the bell curve. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are. Because you couldn't be a flyweight and survive those old school winters. You can't. Like, that's why Vikings were big. That's why you go to Iceland, they're big people. That's why Northern Europeans are big people. You needed to generate a lot of heat to survive. So when you see someone small in our society, that's not the norm. And so chances are you're going to get things like smaller bones, lighter bones, and that makes you more prone to injuries and all these sorts of things. And maybe that's what happened to him. Maybe he just wasn't physically built for the rigors of pro boxing. He wasn't built like a Thomas Asomba, who can do this week after week, round after round, year after year. And that's okay. But for his career to have disintegrated the minute he hit that kind of elite level, because that Moshotane, whatever his name is, that's it, right? Don't know. That's an old dude, man. Like, he had seen better days. Sonny Edwards, as soon as he stepped up to what we call world level, you know, guys who will win belts and defend them, it all fell apart. Much like Billy Joe's career. As soon as Billy Joe touched that summit of the mountain against Canelo, bam, done. As soon as Sonny Edwards jumped in with Rodriguez, done. Not even easy. Like, to the point, in both situations, people were like, did they quit? Did they quit? Now, I'm not going to go into that conversation because I think, like, that's such a hard accusation to level at a fighter that you need conclusive evidence before you call that. But interestingly enough, both have similar reputations in the sport. Both have managed to create enemies within the sport. And both went out in similar ways when the pressure came on top. And that's normally what happens, right? When you're mouthy, and the only reason you're allowed to be mouthy is that you think you can run to people who will protect you, right? And that was it. Like, for years, we heard about the insinuations that he was affiliated to MTK, this, that, and the third, but he could fight in America. So I'm like, well, how affiliated are you really if you can just go to America casually? Probably not that much. Truth comes out fast, and then people come after you, don't they? But we should dwell on Yafai for a second, because I was scathing about Galal Yafai after 2016, because my argument was, well, if he was going to perform like that, why not just put Sonny Edwards in? And he made it right. He did what you should do. Use the 4 years between Olympic Games to get better, and he got a lot better. And now you're seeing him at 31 years old. He's just like, I need to get this career done in a hurry before my body gives up on me. Because he'd have been well within his rights to say, I don't want to fight Sonny Edwards. But he was like, no, I'll fight Sonny. I know who Sonny is. I know him well. And I know what I can do to him. And trust him cracking and got it cracking. Now, will he jump in and fight Bam next? I don't think he does. But Bam's got the WBC belt. And I'm sure he won a minor version of that WC belt against Edwards. So you could make that fight. But I don't think Yafai could do that to Bam Rodriguez. I think you're going to ship a lot of punishment trying to do that with Bam, because he can actually crack. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him next. Because once you've beaten Sonny Edwards, there's nothing at domestic level. There's nothing. Charlie's not coming down in weight to fight him. So what's the point? Like, there's nothing. What, you're going to fight Jay Harris? Really? Thanks, but no thanks. So all you've really got are those kind of big Latin American names and a few random Uzbeks floating around somewhere. And that's about it. But I want to see him make his money. Let him have his time in the sun, because whatever you want to say, that was such a powerful and emphatic performance that you're like, wow. You don't often see British fighters do that. Just set about someone and go, the way I'm going to fight you today, you're going to have to be Hall of Fame material to beat me. And Sonny Edwards is not Hall of Fame material, as we found out. That's a real shame. All those years, him, his cheerleaders, all these people are telling us this kid's the micro Mayweather. Like, you get the bully, you get the XL bully, and you get the little micro bully, like the little handbag bully. Like, he's like the micro Mayweather. All short arms and legs and a big ass head. That's it. That was it. He's our Mayweather. He's this, he's that. And all that fell apart as soon as there was someone who knew how to box. That all fell apart. But you got to balance that against saying, in many ways, Sonny's been good for boxing. Like, his honesty is refreshing. The fact that he doesn't care who he upsets and being honest is refreshing. The fact that he's pro boxer is refreshing as well. And he's also, like I said, a sharp boxing mind. He could commentate all day, every day. There's loads of stuff Sonny can still do in boxing, and I hope he's not lost to boxing. I'd like to see what he does as a manager, etc., because he knows the game and he's been shafted a few times. He knows the stories. And so all we can do now is hope that he finds peace with himself. Because I worry, I was watching it going, we miss pigtail Sonny. We miss Sonny Edwards with hair. Like Sonny Edwards with hair could fight. Sonny Edwards with the receding hairline, he ain't the same guy. You can make fun of that as much as you want. But on the other side of all of this is a guy who now has to deal with the reality that he's not the main man. Here's a man who has to deal with the reality that he's upset enough people that if they catch him in real life, it is going to be bad for him. And I don't mean like the people on Twitter. I mean people in general. They will be bad for him. And he's got to deal with the fact that at 28 years old, he needs to reinvent himself. That's a lot for someone to take. So all of those people who are friends with Sonny and all those people who follow him and all those people who enjoyed the banter and laughed and joked and retweeted and sided with him, I hope you're all going to be there for him when he needs you, because he's going to need you, not today, but about a year from now, he's going to need you. Yeah? Because they all struggle. When it's done, when it's taken from you, and it was taken from him, Sonny never expected to retire at 28. So when it's taken from you, it's even harder. So make sure that if you were there on the way up with him, be there on the way down. That's what integrity is. I don't need to be. I don't care. But make sure you're there for him, right? And I say that on a human level, because you don't want to see someone walking around like barefoot in a fur coat and just underwear, do you? You don't want to see that. So now I'd say look after him. But let's just touch on his interview with Carl, because I thought that was quite instructive as well.
I'm here with Sonny Edwards. He's been good enough to let me hijack him. He's just been involved in a bit of a tough fight with Yafai. What went wrong for you?
I'll be real. Probably the worst I've ever been, if I'm honest. I don't know, for the longest time, every part of my being wanted nothing else but to be in a boxing ring, and I feel like the last 6, 7, 8 months, even my last fight, I won. I was in tears in the changing room. You know what I mean? It's
like that desire's gone.
I feel like I've got eyes elsewhere in this world right now, and I love boxing, and it's always really been my first love, but do you know when getting in and doing it don't feel the same no more?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I'll be real, I think my body's been getting me down. I think It's been no secret. I've had bad ankles, I've had bad hands, I've had bad shoulders, I've had bad everything. And I think it really just accumulated this camp. I had to have about 2-3 weeks off in a 10-week camp. It's not ideal, it's not great. Both times my ankles, so I was seated down for a week at a time both times, but no excuses, man. That's why I wanted to show grace in defeat. I wanted to give all the props necessary to the man, Galal Yafai. I've said this whole way through, and for the last 10 years, Galal's been a friend of mine. So, you know, if I'm going to lose to anyone, losing to a friend ain't the worst thing.
But if you had bad ankles, why didn't his training team say, mate, just get on the bike? Get on the what bike? We'll work you that way. There are always ways to deal with these things, ways to mitigate, etc., etc. But, you know, maybe Grant Smith would have done that. I don't know. But, yeah, all of it just seems a bit odd and also a bit sad on a human level. For your career to be literally taken away from you, as he said there, like because the body just doesn't want to do it anymore. That's why you don't get a lot of world champions that are flyweights out of this country. We don't do small people well. We don't really do big people well either, if you see what I mean. But we do kind of the middle of the bell curve, we seem to do okay. And I guess maybe that's what helps you survive in this country. But let's also talk about number 3 on the MVP list, Carl Froch. So number 1, just watching Carl walk into Gal Yafai's changing room. He literally looked like he had just come back from smuggling 2 tons of whatever from Morocco, right? Looked like he just jumped off the plane. He had the same Dolce & Gabbana jacket Eddie Hearn had, but Hearn's is in blue and Froch is in black. Now, I don't know if Carl did that as a statement just to remind Eddie, anything you can do, I can do better. But Carl definitely came out on some smoke. I don't know if he had done a few lines because he was definitely... He was spitting that truth, wasn't he? And like my favorite bit of Carl Froch was him and McCracken, and I think we know who he was talking about when he said this.
I asked him what's next, where are you going, and he didn't want to mention any names or say what's next for him. He just says, I'll just listen to Rob, and that's good, because if you listen to you, and I think there's people, and I won't mention any names, but if people listen to you who you've looked after before, they'd be in a lot better place right now, let me tell you. But let's not talk about old stuff. Let's talk about the future for Galal Yafai.
Love Carl. In life, I just think great people are petty people. I think the greatest people you meet will remember the smallest bits of disrespect, the slightest thing. They tend to remember these things. And I don't know why it is, but if you look at most of the greats, they'll know every line of criticism written about them. They'll know who said it, when they said it, and they'll never miss an opportunity to fire back, whether it's public or private. They'll always fire back. And that's why I like Carl now, because Carl's, I mean, he's doing McCracken's talking for him. Do you know what I mean? And he wasn't wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, history's proved everything that Carl said to be correct. But let's just bring it back, because I don't want to talk too long on this one. Sonny will need his friends around him, because there's going to be a very dark period for him. Number one, all those people he bullied, all those people he disrespected, all those people he made fun of, the Fowlers, the Shane McGuigans, even the 15-year-old kids that he used to terrorize and bully on his lives. There are loads of them. I remember my DMs are full of the things that Sonny would send, and he'd threaten people. Sonny Edwards offering people like ringside or close to ringside tickets for dirt on people. Like, this was all happening, right? And then just people being bitches and just offering up information to Sonny Edwards because they just want his validation. They were the worst kind as far as I was concerned. But this all happened. And I know it was done to me. But as I keep saying, I fly straight in the sport. There is no dirt. There just isn't. Because if there was, it would have been out by now. But this is all the stuff he has done. And these chickens have to come home to roost at some point, right? That's how the universe works. So if you're around him and he's your mate, look after him. That's what I can say. Look after him. I'm going to breeze through the rest of the card. Aaron Bowen, trash. Cameron Vuong, trash. Simple as. And, like, I'm not even trying to defend that. They're trash. Sam Jones was all there saying that this kid was going to be something special. They're talking all of this, talking all of that. These kids have no idea how tough it is to be a professional boxer. These kids came out of an amateur system that blew smoke up their backside but gave them zero skills. And they got unleashed into the wide world where there are people who are happy to take their heads off. And they're not built for it. These are kids who never had reputations as tough guys in school. Just nice kids who could box. That ain't enough in the pro game. And they're finding out. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Hearn match them hard until he can get rid of them. Because they are not good enough. They're not going to bring world title fights. They're not going to bring pay-per-view. They're not going to help people subscribe to the zone. Aaron Bowen, no chance. Cameron Vuong, no chance. God, who else was there? There was Lewis Ritson. Where did Lewis Ritson's power go, by the way? Went from a guy knocking out B-level matchroom fighters for fun, like he did 3 in like 9 months, to then just getting bullied and stopped by everyone. What a fall from grace. Truly, what a fall from grace. Really, really sad. And Kieran Conway, I think he boxed, and who do you got? Ryan Kelly? And I think Mike Costello's like, yeah, it'd be a good fight for Kieran Conway to face the winner of Brad Paul versus Denzel Bentley. No, it really wouldn't. Not enjoyable at all. Like I've said, that Northampton style doesn't really work for me. It's very basic, and it's just, get him fit, mate. Get him fit. It's not even a Midlands accent either. Well, what accent is that? But yeah, summarize that. Absolutely terrible card. At least Hearn didn't lose that much money on that nonsense because it sounded empty as hell. You always know a venue's empty when you can hear the reverb in the arena. And there was a lot of reverb in that arena, even for the main event. So, yeah. Matchroom, yeah. Global promoter, yeah. Best promoter in the world, yeah. I build stars, yeah. All right, let me go and enjoy the rest of my day. On that note, take care, guys.